This and That and What the Fuck Else, episode 92, creeping up to the hundreds. And I want to say thank you to those people that are subscribing. Slowly but surely the subscriber count is climbing, and I really appreciate that. Lots of things happening. It seems like Kherson turning out to be a poison chalice for Ukraine. I've read some articles this evening that Ukraine is busy evacuating the citizens from Kherson. That was quite insightful, and I believe they've got problems at Zaporizhia also. I don't know what's going on there, but then there's rumors about the Belgorod area north of Kharkiv. I've seen a commentator that reckons the Russians will better make a big plan there, because the Ukrainians are giving that part of Russia hell. But let's see what's going to happen. If you think that Ukraine can win this war, I've got news for you, but let's see where this is going. I've read another very disturbing article. It looks like the Ukrainian losses in manpower is close to 1 million. That is a hell of a lot of people. And the sad part is, that is the future of Ukraine. It's all the young men that is gone, done. The West needs to reconsider this thing. But speaking of Kherson, collaborators held at Russia as Russia leaves a city of booby traps. Angry locals in Kherson confront men as they are tied to lampposts after being accused of helping Putin's troops during the Ukraine invasion. The Daily Mail calmly publishes a picture of the lynching of collaborators in Kherson, without trial and investigation. Apparently, the civilized Western world completely supports the activities of the Ukrainian Nazis. And that is sad, but that is what we are living with, and that is what we are being told by the Western media and politicians. Those are the good guys, the guys that does these things to people. And then we get to that crazy Zelensky. Zelensky announces 10 conditions for Ukrainian peace formula at the G20 summit. Ukraine's radiation and nuclear security, food security, energy security, release of all prisoners and deportees, exchange of all for all, implementation of the UN Charter and the restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity and the world order, withdrawal of Russian troops and cessation of hostilities, restoration of justice, countering ecocide, preventing escalation, setting the end of the war. NATO's political technologists, however, almost blew the whistle on the demand to restore world order, and the rest of the points are just ridiculous. Zelensky himself was asking above all to get Ukrainian grain out of the country to create a nuclear bomb and to engage in undermining the infrastructure. And Zelensky is hardly even aware of the meaning of justice. Yeah, that guy, I've said it many times, he better lay off the white stuff, because his head is obviously beginning to miss some beats. But that list is impressive, must say. Then we've got this. As I said, I wish no harm on the people of America. I believe the corruption must be weeded out and replaced with fair and impartial people who understand the average everyday citizen. Waging wars on the other side of the planet and slaughtering innocents is unforgivable. And more from the US. The United States of America has participated in conflicts that led to over 20 million deaths over 37 nations since 1945. American intervention and involvement across 5 continents, from enacting economic blockades, inciting political change through unconventional means, to direct hostile interventions, has led to the death of over 20 million citizens. The United States of America drops an average of 46 bombs a day. continuously for the past 20 years. This is apparently the biggest peacemaker in the world. I must be missing something. Guys, that is an enormous amount of people. How the fuck can the Americans go to bed and sleep at night? How is it possible that the American citizens are allowing their government to do these things? And then people are amazed when hatred shows up towards Americans. There's your answer. US quietly asks banks to keep some ties with Russia even as Congress balks. Treasury stats from JP Morgan City to bank some Russian firms. Congress lambasted banks for continuing to work in the country. Well, the sanctions thing is madness. There's no sanity behind it. There's no logics. And people are suffering like hell. But they do it. They keep on with the sanctions. Garland Nixon, incidentally, I see his Twitter account has been locked. He came out with this one. And it's not the truth. But listen to what he says. Breaking news. White House insiders leak that Jake Sullivan again reminded President Biden that it is a bad idea to refer to Ukrainian soldiers as Russian bullet catchers in public. I just laughed when I saw that. And I had to share it with you. Another one. US regime has killed 20 to 30 million people since World War II. Let that sink in. Think about it. And ask yourself if that is right. The US took over the German war against the Soviet Union. The CIA, using Nazis, the SS and other war criminals, was the most important element in the underground warfare, the Cold War against the Soviet Union and its allies in Eastern Europe. Think about it? Again, just think about it. That is the West. And then there's this cartoon I saw, and it made me very angry when I saw it. But that is what's happening. And then I've got this image of Donald Trump and his children, and I had to take it. Not that I'm a big Trump fan, but look at the man and his family. Look at that. And then compare it to that Biden. And then we have this cartoon. It's about the FTX money sewer. Look at that. It is scary what happened there. But we haven't seen the end of it. There is nasty things coming out about and around that FTX. Then you have this. A 5,000 kamikaze Russian drone destroys in spectacular manner 2 units of S-300 surface-to-air missile systems of the Ukrainian army. Both the value of $300 million. A $5,000 drone took out $300 million of equipment. Guys, that war, nothing makes sense there. And then this cartoon. And you have to look at this cartoon because there is more and more reports coming out of weapons, Ukrainian weapons. And by Ukrainian weapons, I mean weapons that was given to and donated to Ukraine is showing up all over Europe in criminal hands, and this is not good. But the Arabs warned Europe about this. That one guy said that Europe is playing with fire. Europe is going to turn into a terrorist minefield, exactly as it is in the Middle East. There will not be a city or a street that is safe. And now we see it happening. But the fucking West is most clever. Always, they know better. And then I've got this one, just for you to take note of and to think. Russian army is preparing to test the Satan II nuclear missile. this is apparently a terrible thing. One of them can take the whole of France out, the whole of Texas out. One. And it's hypersonic. And it can reach America from the south. Well, I don't know what to say about these things. I wish we had common sense politicians and diplomats, not these gender confused, woke fucking snowflakes, newcons that just want to war. Italy cuts off the arms supply to Ukraine, approved by the previous government. This was stated by the Italian Defense Minister Crocetta. And interesting, this was a message that I saw on the 11th of November. That is 10 days ago, a week ago. The Italian police caught a gang of Ukrainian terrorists that were planning to blow up the Italian police station. So those Zazis are going to turn their attention to Italy if Italy stops supporting Ukraine. Mark my words. And then this is just something interesting. Here is your climate change, and it shows that hill that was put on fire by a laser from the sky. How true it is, I don't know. I've read many things about it. And here's a close-up picture of what the guys displayed more about the types of lasers that the US Navy has developed. This is ugly stuff. Then we get to this one. Made me laugh. Lithuania gifts armored vehicles to Ukraine. A dozen M113 armored personnel carriers have been given to the Baltic nation, by the Baltic nation to Kiev's forces, according to Lithuania's defense minister. Lithuania. And they are one of those little Baltic countries sitting there at the top and it's poking the bear like hell. They think if the shit hits the fan, all the NATO countries are going to come and storm in and help them. They haven't looked carefully at what's happening in the Ukraine. And then we have this, a new fleet of 20 naval drones being delivered to Ukraine forces from the United Kingdom. Please confirm these boats are NATO weapons. Well, the UK, I have spoken a lot about. And then there was this piece that I picked up about the Russian intelligence services that managed to buy a complete HIMARS missile, or projectile missile, from some Ukrainian military guys, and they are now dismantling it in their labs and studying the thing. Great! That is how it works in Ukraine. And then there's something on a Russian military industrial complex. Dmitry Medvedev posted a video from the Kurganamash plant showing the upgraded BMP-3s with the distinctive armor bonnets. Look at that assembly line. Look at it. The West doesn't have things like this anymore. Some more shots from that factory. It is a huge operation, that. And there is some more. And this is what NATO is facing. They don't want to listen. They keep on poking the bear. What the hell is wrong? Can the people not understand that this thing can go only one way in the Ukraine? Ukraine losing? And maybe, if there is sanity, that is where it ends. But the way Poland is carrying on, the next you see this shit is moving further towards the West. And then there's this. The US to buy 100,000 Korean artillery shells for Ukraine. The US and South Korea are apparently about to close a deal where Washington would purchase 100,000 rounds of 155mm artillery shells to be delivered to Ukraine, multiple reports in the US media say. Seoul commented on the news by saying that its position on not providing lethal aid to Ukraine remained unchanged, and its confidential negotiations on the sale of the artillery shells were being conducted under the premise that the US is the end user. Listen to that heap of shit. They're trying to convince us they're not supplying this to the Ukraine. They fucking know it's going to the Ukraine, but listen to how they spin the fucking thing. But I've heard whispers, and apparently the Chinese has whispered in the Koreans' ears about this, because this morning I saw another post about it, where they said Korea is now having second thoughts because they've checked and they don't have that much excess stock. So, what's going on there? Your guess is as good as mine. And then we have this. Modern weapons will ensure victory. Former Russian Space Agency chief. In coming months, the most modern Russian weapons will arrive for use by the Russian troops in the special military operation zone in Ukraine, which will ensure victory. And I have spoken about this. The Russians have not pulled out their really big guns in the Ukraine yet. They've used 1 or 2 hypersonic missiles. The rest is the standard missile. But, interesting, I have to mention this. I've asked my question on a number of channels and on a number of shows. Why did NATO not intercept those missiles from Ukraine to Poland? And I don't get answers. One guy answered me, and I think I want to read that answer to you. That was hilarious. I couldn't believe it when I read that story. There was no time to shoot it down, as the village is located about 6 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. It took about 4 to 5 seconds. Missile is hypersonic, which is bullshit. It's not a hypersonic missile. For the missile to travel that distance to point of impact, the air defense units are not in the alarm mode. In that situation, in order to act, they would need to follow a chain of command, starting with about 4 steps to reach finally a president. That would take some minutes. The most effective approach would be to destroy missile over Ukraine, but theoretically Ukrainians could treat that as an act of war. However, about 40 kilometers from point of impact there is a modern radar station, and they observed the approaching missile. Missile and its trajectory were also recorded by US surveillance plane patrolling the area. Older S-300 are fully controlled throughout from the ground. If target is missed, operator can deviate missile from its course or self-destroy it. For the time of its deployment, it is one of the best in the world. What load of shit is that? I couldn't believe it, and I told the guy, you are now talking shit. But this is the type of explanations they try and give you, and they want to bullshit you, and they want to try and make you believe. I am getting a fucking uneasy feeling. The NATO air defense system is not close to what we are being made to believe. I still want to know, why did NATO not stop those missiles? Because I read another article where a guy said they are 100% sure the actual target of those S-300s was an agricultural center that has a huge fertilizer warehouse system. And if that missiles went into that fertilizer in that warehouse, it would have been a major fuck up. But this is all the stories we hear. But nobody hears the truth. Nobody tells the truth. Always spinning and bullshit. Now, when I read that answer that guy gave me, I thought to myself, yap. Fact of the matter is, Europeans, you better sleep with your one eye open, and very close to a place where you can crawl into a hole fucking quickly, because clearly NATO is not going to protect you from missiles, be it stray missiles or directly aimed missiles. And now, at this point, we get to that what a fuck moment, and this what a fuck moment is for the men in the group. So, excuse if you are offended, but I'm going to share this with the guys. Me. Can we go to Hooters? Wife. You've got Hooters at home. The Hooters at home. I had to share this one. It was just too good to be true. But on that note, please hit me with a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.